name's Lucy, and I escaped from Lahaina with my son's family. I'll never forget it as long as I live. It was so strange. At the time, both ends of Front Street, they had blocked off, but at that point they were only blocked off of cones. They later used the police, but at that point my son drove around the cones. And I think we were the only family to drive around the cones. Probably 98% of the people turned around and burned to death on Front Street. And there was no reason for it. There was no reason for both ends of Front Street to be blocked off. When I left his house, I was supposed to babysit that day, and they came home because of the winds were so bad. Thank God they came home, because I probably wouldn't even notice there was a fire. My little grandsons started saying they smelled s'mores, which is, they were associating with the wood they were smelling, burning. And then my son went outside and talked to a few of the neighbors, and embers fell on him. And basically, he was like touched by God at that moment. He had a vision of us burning to death in a car, and that's why he immediately came in and said, "We're leaving." The boys packed maybe 2 pairs of shorts and grabbed a stuffed animal, and we were gone like in 3 minutes. And we were probably one of the first ones to escape the neighborhood. The entire neighborhood burnt down, but at the point that we left was when the embers were falling, and then within minutes, by the time I didn't pack nothing, like I said, I was going to babysit. By the time we left, within minutes, the whole neighborhood was smoke. And then we're only, I feel traumatized still. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm crushed, I'm devastated, I'm alive. I don't think I have a right to be alive. It was in the afternoon when we probably left around, I think my son's family probably left about 3:34, and that was just like at the last minute to leave safely, because obviously when the picture of his neighborhood, most of the other neighbors did not get out. And then when we were escaping, we had to drive by so many people who were walking, and I wanted to pick them up. We all wanted to pick them up, but there was too many of them. What would you do? You pick and choose? Okay, I'm going to save you, but I'm not going to save you. But this one elderly man in a walker, he was using a walker, me and him caught eyes. We had an eye connection, and he looked like he was in utter shock. All his fellow citizens were just driving by him. Thank God my son did not obey, and he went around. And that is why we're alive. Only reason why we're alive. And thank God they came home that day from both working, because the winds were so strong. Because my dumb butt didn't even know there was a fire. My grandsons probably would have burned to death if I was alone with them. Unless one of the neighbors probably would have alerted us. They would have. There's Laura and Kirk across the street, and there was Donna and her husband next door. I think one of them would have alerted me, but survivor's guilt's terrible. Why did I survive this, you know? That's why I think I've got to speak out, because I did survive it, so many didn't. And I'm not going to be afraid of the men in wooden ladders, whoever they were. Josh Green, who were they? I'm sure you know. It was just the strangest thing when my son went around the blocks, which were at that point cones. There were men on wooden ladders. They had the ladders up against brand new poles, and they screamed at him for him to turn around, and he didn't. He kept going. And there's probably maybe 7 of them, and every single one of them stopped what they were doing and watched us drive by, and they all looked like really mad that we did not obey them. But that's why we're alive, because we did not obey them. I I don't know who they were. I don't know who the men on wooden gliders were. They all had, they were wearing uniforms. They were like gray uniforms. And they all looked to be like, they weren't military. They didn't have military outfits on, but they looked like they belonged to something like the military, something. And I'm wondering why were they, first of all, they pretend that they're an electric company. Electric companies do not use wooden ladders. Okay, I wasn't born yesterday. And that's the one thing that's when my bells start going off inside me, is when I see those men in wooden ladders up against brand new poles, trying to shut the road down, yelling at us to turn around and go back to the fire. That's when my inner bells went off. I'm like, man, there's something wrong here. This ain't right. You don't do that. You don't block this. There was nothing. There was no wires down on that road. We drove all the way. We were the only car in to exit into Kalalui. He was going to obey at first. He thought, oh, if they got the codes, there's got to be something wrong. That's what through his head. And then when he turned around, he seen the cars. Nobody was moving. He's like, nope. He did immediately U-turn, and we went around. And that's when the men on the wooden ladders, all dressed alike, up against brand new poles that had just been put there. They could tell they were brand new. They were like red even. One truck was parked there, and it was not the Maui Electric Company truck. I don't know who these men were, but they didn't belong there. And like I said, they're the ones that made my bells go off. I'm like, this ain't right. Something's wrong. Nothing was right about that. And so many people obeyed them and turned around, and then they died. So what, now these men are going to get away with it? Nobody's going to call them out? There's not going to be no trials? Is Pelletier and the governor, you guys just think you're going to walk away? No, we need trials. All these people that died, this one woman in my neighborhood, she had such horrible arthritis in her feet, she couldn't get out. I wish I would have known that woman. I didn't know her, and I feel so bad I didn't even know this woman. I lived in that neighborhood for years, and how could I not know her? She burned to death behind a wall, trying to hide because she couldn't walk out, because there was bumper to bumper cars trying to get out on the only road out of that neighborhood that went into Lahaina Luna. There was only one way out. I want the truth out. I want to know why this Pelletier got the job here he did, and why he brought his men with him, why it was allowed. I want to know why the water was shut off, why there was no alarm sounded. You're not going to get away with it. It's not going to happen. You're going to give those houses, land back to the people of Lahaina that lost their houses so they can at least rebuild. You're going to like it or not, you're going to have to do what's right, because there's going to be lawsuits of the yin-yang, and more people are going to talk, the truth's going to get out, and then you're going to have to resign, Governor, and all the rest of you on down to the police who blocked the roads off there. Every single one of you needs to resign, because no one shouldn't have to die like that. No one should have to. That did not have to happen. That fire couldn't put out. Oh, you turned the water. Everything was just going to be coincidence. People didn't have a chance. Children at home alone didn't have a chance. Just people. It's heart-wrenching. And to know how they died, the most horrible way there was to die, to burn to death. And you bastards are worried about your careers. And for no need. There was no need to block those roads off. What's your excuse? Why? We went around. There wasn't down wires everywhere. That road was safe. There was no reason to block it off. But I do believe in the power of prayer. It's energy. I don't care what religion you are. If you're not even a religion, just pray, or chant, or do whatever. And we got to get rid of this evil that is wandering Maui. That did this. That sacrifice, it was a satanic sacrifice. That's what it feels like to me. I couldn't, but then I'm a human. I didn't sell my soul to the devil. I'll die for. I don't care money. I don't care anything about money. Obviously you do, Oprah. Yeah, Yeah, you keep that little fundraiser going while you keep your billions that you can't spend in 10 lifetimes. You can't bring it with you to hell. I want to see the people of Lahaina get their land back and rebuild their homes.
Hey, hello, I'm Ann Williams, and I lived at 457 Lahaina Luna Road. And I definitely encourage this whole fire to be investigated further, not only for just legislation, but just on a criminal level. I'll just tell you my story. I lived right there, about 3 blocks where the fires were going off. I immediately knew there was a fire because I'd been watching it personally, but didn't even have time to get into the car and drive. The roads were already blocked. My driveway, I wouldn't have even been able to get out of my driveway if I wanted to. Luckily, my key actually broke when I tried to get in, and so I had to run down. But thank you, God, that was my saving grace. If I was in my car listening to all the policemen that were out there, I would have been dead, like most of my other friends and relatives. Ran down to Lahaina Luna Road, got down to the light. Luckily, I found my daughter down there in her truck, so I did get into a vehicle at that point. We're being blocked right there, couldn't go anywhere by a police officer. But we were one of the smarter people, disobeyed the cops. I just went down, we had to go down Front Street in order to save ourselves. I had a whole family in my car, including the 2-year-old. There was no way I was going to sit there and listen to this cop telling us to stay put. Went down Front Street, total mess, so many cars. I mean, we're looking at 10,000 people trying to get out right away, all at the same time in the tiny little streets of Lahaina. Everybody being forced to Front Street, not being able to drive on the highway because there were some power lines down in that immediate area. We went through Safeway parking lot, saw the power lines there, so we ended up going out. Finally, we did escape out the Fleming's Chart House exit to go north. We went north. Free sailing at that point after Fleming's got out there. They hadn't blockaded us yet. I was one of the lucky few that got out that way. No power lines whatsoever. It was a safe exit all the way north, and we got to Honokawai that way. After me, though, they decided to block it. And there was still no power lines down because I did come out the next morning and I saw the death trap. It was where there were no power lines still yet the following morning. Everybody could have gotten out. Everybody could have gone out. It was free sailing going north. But the police officer there, quote unquote, from direct other residents who talked to him, were walking, saw all the cars stopped. He finally walked all the way up to the front at the exit, policemen standing there. And the guy said to the policeman, "There's a fire. The fire is coming. You got to let these people go. I've got orders." We need to investigate that. Who is giving these cops orders? I mean, the police officer might be taking orders. It's not his fault personally. But there's somebody above him that did this. And they need to investigate that. And then John said that the far end of Front Street was blocked, bringing him in that way, and then blocked this way. It's obvious we were intentionally trapped. And I hope that this gets investigated further. And I have the eyewitnesses who have spoken to that cop directly.
Council members, my name is John Kinimaka. I just wanted to clear some things up because, about the pointing of fingers. I had a fireman friend of mine tell me that I need to get accurate information. So he sent me a message, and I'd like to share that with you. The fire in the morning wasn't raging, so yes, sometimes we don't use sirens in the early morning out of respect for the people sleeping. No one needed to be evacuated, and we got there. The fire was contained in the morning. It was out, but there's still many smoldering spots. I don't know if smoldering means it's out, but which the crews stayed there till 2, trying to clean it up the best they could, dumping as much water as possible. Being that there were multiple fires going on throughout the island, those crews stayed. They stayed there. Truex came and cut dozer lines around the fire to ensure it was contained. Obviously, it wasn't. I left that morning when I was living on Lahaina Luna Road with my friend Ann that lost her home. And at 5 in the morning, I felt the heavy gust of wind while I was sitting in my car getting ready to leave. And not very long after, I did witness the fire department going up without any warning of sirens to let us know that the possible danger. I wasn't there to experience what many people had experienced. I was north trying to get power, not knowing that my town was burning down. I want to share this with my friend Kirk Bose. Posted this on my Facebook page. We left our home after we decided to leave on our own at the bottom of Lahaina Luna neighborhood. No sirens, no police or firemen, just left on our own because it was getting scary smoky. Made it out to Lahaina Luna Road through the fire, barely escaped. One cop at the intersection waving us into town. Wouldn't allow us to turn either north or south on the highway. Got trapped by the outlet mall trying to turn north on Front Street. Meanwhile, the one policeman at the old chart house turns out was not allowing cars out at all. They had no plan, no communication, no preparation, no common sense either. Nearly killed us twice. Drove, then ran south down Front Street while people at Outlet Mall jumped into the water, embers blowing under the car. Made it to 505, then 10 minutes later, it all started burning. It's a miracle we are alive. I'm not pissed at the police or firemen. They did the best they could as people, but they are understaffed, underpaid, under-equipped, and poorly led, trained, and prepared for a real emergency. Also, I have a friend that was working at Puamana and nobody evacuated her. She decided that the smoke was getting really bad, and she was there at the south end of Front Street, was denied access to go south where she would have been safe, was directed by the police to turn around and head back to the death trap in Lahaina. She made it to the south or the north end of Front Street, where she was gridlocked after making it through a maze of gridlock to the end or the north end of Front Street, turned back around towards Puamana. By the time she got back to the other end on the south side of Puamana, the police weren't there. Apparently they wouldn't let anybody through because the power lines were down, but at the same time, there were still vehicles coming from Wailuku towards Lahaina. Another thing I'd like to share is that about tourists and them wanting to reopen Lahaina. We don't need tourists helping, as we showed how our community can provide for our own community without government aid from day one. Tourists should stay away from West Maui. We still have to find the missing. We need to house the displaced. We need to process. We still need to grieve. We need to heal. We still need to find out what went wrong. We need to make a geographical restriction on all car rentals from cruising over to the west side. We still need to prepare for and work on plans and prevention for the next potential disaster. Every government action and inaction since the fire has been a complete failure. We need to stop these government failures at some point. Now is the time. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mario Vendetti, representing Puholai, on Kauai. And if this council wanted to solve any issues, you'd be listening to all the issues. Because if you want investigations, we need investigations into the water department. We need investigations into the police. Why, when we had 2 qualified sheriffs that were local, did we go hire a sheriff coming out of a scandal out of Las Vegas, placing him in power? Not only that, giving him a 20% raise. What's that about? And my friends are getting chained into the Lahaina Luna, back into the fire, by these police brought from Vegas. I want an investigation into the governor. The governor is in charge of all of this. And I want to know why the land hasn't been tested. Why am I, a citizen out of Hana, Kauai, having to try to get private tests on water and land? Because nobody in our government will help us. The only person's Gabe Johnson. That's the only person I got respect for. And you silencing people when they're talking about real issues. We have water that's given us leukemia. I am probably already infected with benzene and gonna have leukemia because from day one, I've been doing runs into Lahaina, Luna, into Hawaiian Homes, into Waikuli, covered in the dust. I have nowhere to clean myself off. It's just benzene water cleaning me off. I'm breathing that in all day long because the county's not out there helping the people. So I'm developing a water transport system for me out. I've got flatbed trucks coming, 1,000-gallon tanks, 300-gallon water buffaloes in each neighborhood. Because nobody that was elected to take care of the people is helping. We weren't getting supplies from the county. We had to call in our brothers and sisters from other islands, from Kihei. I had to call my friends that were captains of pack whaleboats, getting them to bring supplies. I didn't see one official. I set up a communication post in the Times parking lot because that was the safest place, food, water options, restrooms, concrete area. I didn't see one official for 48 hours. And then when they did come, when the police did show up, they came to disperse our communication post when we had no information, no communication. And so I hold all of you responsible, most specifically the governor.